This is Nick Lowry, my good buddy Damon Cornelia, my good buddy Cameron Siemens, and we're here at Windsong Dojo just going to do a little brief discussion about connection and Kuzushi. So when we're dealing with somebody and we want to get them into motion, we're always looking for body rise. And body rise, as soon as we can provoke them up into body rise, we have them into control, and we can take them anywhere we like. The way we provoke that in a body can be done in a very subtle manner. We're going to talk about that for a second. It's a little hard to show on video, but we can sort of describe it and kind of give you a key. So he's just standing stable and still, and we're going to reach out and put our hands in contact. And I want to contact him just enough to feel into his structure. So I want to feel past just the surface of his skin, not like I'm just pushing him down, but I'm reaching into him so I can get a feeling of his structure, and I pressurize that structure just briefly, then I let off of it. And when I let off of it, I tractor him. And suddenly we're in this body rise that I can exploit. Everybody's going to feel a little different. So he might be real mushy. He might be a mushy guy. You put your hands on him and he just turns to mush. You say, man, he's a mushy guy. When you run into something and it's mush, you just keep on going in and you'll wind up on his body, and eventually, again, you get structure. So you got to kind of do it by feel. If he's very rigid, he's very tight, as soon as you put contact in him, you can come right back off it. He's already bouncing off. It's almost like the feeling you have with those magnetic locks on a cabinet door. You push into the locks, boom, and it pops back out. So you're reaching in, you feel a little structure. Give me a little, yeah, there you go, like you're, yeah, boom, right. And it's a pressure-related thing. If you touch him and you don't have any effect on him, you haven't put any pressure into him. Just enough pressure to unlock him from the floor is what you're looking for. Just enough contact that unlocks him from the floor. Into him, release. Yeah. Once you've released him from the floor, once you've popped him loose from gravity, then you can do all sorts of interesting things with him. Now the other effect that gets into this, it's kind of interesting, that once you have a feel for that connection, and it is largely based in your hands, something that you're feeling, you can also wind up projecting that into them touching you. And so it's not just putting it in your hands on them, but when their hands contact you and part of your body, you can feed back through their point of contact, give enough pressure into their structure, then release, and have very similar effects. So he could be grabbing you or just pushing on you. He's actually pushing near the mic. If he's pushing into your body, you give him enough feedback and then unhook him from the ground. And so you can spread that out in terms of point of contact to not only you putting your hands on them, but they're putting your hands on you. And that's a feeling-based structure. Once that's happening, you can also get into these mechanisms whereby on contact, you sort of take them for a little ride. And the trick here is that your center of gravity is already in motion. So if I were doing this real big, my center of gravity would look like it's dancing around. It's shifting in space. It's making little circular movements. If I'm doing that real big and he comes on and gets a hold of it, well, getting a hold of something that's basically a flywheel already spinning. If I'm static and he gets a hold of me, and then I try to get into motion, well, then I'm dragging him around and he feels it coming the whole time. But if the flywheel's already in motion as he gets in contact, you get this really strange, wiggly, squiggly thing that's happening. And their body has to try to catch up. Their nervous system has to try to catch up to the process that's going on in them. And that's where you get these very interesting kind of dances that go on, right? That's the kind of Kuzushi that I first ran into 30-odd years ago that made me excited to say, man, I want to learn how to do this. But it was hard to ever get to a point where people could transmit that sort of information of how you're going about it. It's the flywheel that's already in motion when they make contact, done very, very, very small. So he can tell you there's all this little activity going on, even though my feet aren't moving through space, that are causing him to get into this very kind of out of control state. If I try to do it too big, man, the guy just shuts it down. He sees it coming, feels it coming, can do a lot about it. So it's happening sort of beneath the threshold of what his nervous system's comfortable with and aware of. Has to be done small, has to be done pretty light, and it has to be a feel-oriented process. As long as you're driving it with your eyes or with your intention, it's going to be really hard to make it go. But when it's happening, yeah, just on feel, yeah, it gets like that. And it's invoking a sense of proprioceptive kind of confusion in the nervous system that's unique and kind of rare in the world. So work on it, see what you can come up with. Remember, it's feeling oriented, pressure in to contact, notice the structure, you got the structure, release it, you get a unhooking from the ground. Once that's happening, he goes into a process of recovery. You do it to him again, and again, and again. Yeah, cool. So it's happening in sequence. And if it's happening at the point that they actually make contact with you, so it's already happening by the time they get there, all the better. So it tends to take a little malice and forethought. You have to be kind of ahead of the game a little bit. It's a proactive strategy, and that's good to know as well. To do this reactively would mean that you're already under duress, and then you have to pull it out of your hat. Good luck. But you see him over coming to you. You notice that you have about a step to work with. Your knees are already flexing. Your hips are already moving slightly. It's mojo. So thank you, guys. Thank you. Cool.